Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Danny and today we're going to talk through my highs and lows of the months of March and April. I have 8 books to talk to you guys about today. 5 of them are highs and 3 are lows. So I think I'm going to talk to you guys about the highs first and then we'll end with the lows. That way, for those of you who just want positive content and just want to hear people gushing about books, you can just watch the first part and not have to get to the negativity. And for those of you who would like a good rant, stay tuned for the end of the video to see the 3 lows that I'm going to talk about. We will start out with my best book from these 2 months, and I will say that I am filming this on April 28th. So technically there are still a few reads up in the air on this list that may or may not become highs. If I do end up loving a book that I finish in the last several days of April, I will just do a separate video on that specific book. But so just a quick disclaimer for what I just said is my favorite book so far from these 2 months was Kings of the Wild. I did a 5-star review on this book, and actually I ended up purchasing this book and its sequel after reading it. So we have Kings of the Wild. This is my 5-star read. This is a debut author from Nicholas Ames, I think is how you pronounce his last name. And then the sequel to the book is Bloody Rose. And there is a 3rd book coming out in, I think it's October of this year. There's a 3rd book coming out this year to add to, I don't know if it's going to be a trilogy or if it's going to be more than that. Each of these books focuses on one band of characters. And by band, I don't mean rock band, even though there are some nods to the infamous rock bands of old. We have mercenary bands that take down monsters. And this book, the first book, is a book of the band Saga, which are 20 years past their prime. They have, since then the band has disbanded and they have kind of gone off on their own walks of life. But one of them comes back and asks another if he would help him get the band back together to go out and save his daughter. And so you follow this group of men who probably shouldn't be doing the dangerous things that they are doing, go in and try and save this man's daughter. And I love this. It has such good humor in it. It is gritty, and there's definitely guy humor in this, but I found it I was gonna say fascinating, but that's not a good word. I found it very hilarious, and it was uplifting in a time that I needed it. I think I read this book at the right time. A couple of you did comment on that 5-star video, which I will link that up in the cards and the description down below. A couple of you did mention that when you read this, you thought you enjoyed it, but you didn't enjoy it quite as much as me. And I do think that this hit me at the right point in time. And I am excited to reread it and see if I enjoy it as much as I did the first time. But it will always have a special place in my heart just because of the combination of laughter, hilarity, and seriousness in this book. So yeah, I am excited to continue on with the series whenever I get to Bloody Rose. And I know that each of the books in this features one of the mercenary bands. And so I don't know what the 3rd book or who the 3rd book features, but I'm excited to find out. My next favorite book of the months of March and April is The Crown Tower. So this is the first in the series of the Rhaenyra Chronicles, which is the prequel series to the Rhaenyra Revelations that I read last year and absolutely loved. It ended up being one of my favorite series of the year, and I am so excited to be back with Hadrian and Royce. And I have already continued the series. I did not like the 2nd book in the series as much as I liked The Crown Tower, but I am still excited to continue on. So I've read The Crown Tower and The Rose and the Thorn from the Rhaenyra Chronicles, and I think there's 4 or 5 books in the series, and so I'm moving all along. If you haven't heard me talk about Royce and Hadrian before, so in the Rhaenyra Revelations, which is the original book trilogy that I read, which actually I think it's 6 books, but the way that they've packaged the books now, it's only 3 just hefty books, because I think each book has 2 books in it, if I remember correctly. Anyway, so the Rhaenyra Revelations follows Royce and Hadrian, who are a band of 2 men who have some special talents. And in the first book, they are asked, in the first book of the Raya Revelations, they are asked to steal something specific. That book is called The Theft of Swords. So they're asked to steal something that ends up getting them intertwined in some politics within the kingdom. And you get to see their banter, and these two men who are rough and gruff and have definitely had some hard times in their past kind of have a brotherly love and get each other out of pickles over and over again in that series. And so the Crown Tower, which was my 5-star read from March, I think it was in March, might have been in early April, but I'm pretty sure it was in March. The Crown Tower follows their origin story. So how these two men met, the fact that they hated each other at first, and they were kind of, I don't want to say enemies because that's not true, but they were just definitely men that did not want anything to do with each other and had reason to kind of distrust one another. And you get to see them grow together as this really integral friendship in each other's lives. And I loved it. It was great. The reason I did not like the Rose and the Thorn as much, I do think, is probably because of the version of audio that I read this on. I ended up reading the dramatized version of audio instead of the regular version. So it's supposed to be like a movie in your head. You hear all of the escapades going on around you, so you can actually hear them step on gravel if they're walking. You hear horse whinnying in the background. You hear people eating apples. And I think it was just a little too much for me. So I think because of the fact that I was overwhelmed, I still rated that book 4.5 stars. So I'm not saying that it was bad by any means. I'm just saying I think I could have emotionally connected with characters more had I not been so overwhelmed by my surroundings. But still absolutely loving the series. I am happy to continue on. And yeah, if you guys have not read either the Raya Revelations or the Raya Chronicles, I would say give it a try. They do say, the author does make mention that you can read them in any order, but there are going to be little Easter eggs in the Raya Chronicles that will do a little bit of a nod to the Raya Revelations that you're not going to get if you haven't read that original series, but it doesn't actually impact your understanding of the story at all. The next book on this list is The Tainted Cup. So I read and annotated this book with Leandra, and this is a Sherlock Holmes retelling, or I keep saying retelling, but it's a Sherlock Holmes inspired mystery that is set in a fantasy world. And so this is kind of the best of both worlds, especially for Leandra and I, because she is all things mystery and I am all things fantasy. And so when the worlds collide, man, it was a good book. I ended up rating this a 4.5 star. I absolutely loved it. The mystery is complex, the world is fascinating, and I just loved it. You have a character in this book, you have a little bit of a gender swap with the Sherlock Holmes-ish character. Her name is Anna, and she is just a hoot. She's very crude and unusual, and there's some magics in this world that you're trying to figure her out, and whether or not these magics are a part of her, and these, I guess I should say, augmentations, if they are part of her oddity or why she's so weird. And so that's part of the mystery throughout. But what you're actually doing is you're solving a murder that happens in the very beginning of this book of an important person in this world. So this world, this whole series is called the Leviathan something. Hold on. This whole series is called The Shadow of the Leviathan, and so this is going to be a series. I do not think the second book is even has a published date yet, which is very sad because I absolutely loved it. I know Leandra did too. But the whole storyline, not only do we have this mystery, this murder that has happened that we're trying to solve, it is somehow connected to the realm trying to protect itself from these leviathans that come out of the ocean and destroy entire towns. And think Godzilla. And the tying of those two worlds, it was just fascinating. I loved it. I love this author, Robert Jackson Bennett. I got it right. Robert Jackson Bennett is becoming an author that I will automatically pick up and read because he creates such fascinating worlds, large, vast worlds that have really intricate characters in them too. And it's amazing. Next, we have Night Film. And I am not going to say too much about this because this is going to come out on a vlog that I've got going right now. So I'm also not going to tell you my rating on it. You'll have to watch the vlog. I will tell you, this is in my high section, so I did enjoy it. And if you are into horror films at all and love a good mystery, I would say you need to pick this up. The general synopsis is an infamous horror director who has kind of been out of the limelight and been reclusive for the past 20 years. His daughter ends up dying at the very beginning of this novel, and her death is ruled a suicide. And there is an investigative journalist who is investigating her death to actually figure out if there might be more to it, and you follow him throughout this storyline. It is a mixed media, so you have like journal entries and dark web things throughout the book. It was really good. But you'll have to watch the vlog to actually figure out what my rating will be. The last high for me is Rogue Protocol. This is the third book in the Murderbot Diaries, and I finally got to this. I just finished this last night. I started it last night and I finished it last night, and I just love being in Murderbot's head. And this is, I can't tell you much about the plot, but if you've never heard of Murderbot, Murderbot is an AI kind of robot, but not really. He's got a little bit more going on than just a regular robot that is supposed to be a security combat person. And his job, or its job in the first book, is to protect these humans that it has been contracted out to. So it is security, essentially. And all he really wants to, or all they really want to do is sit back in their little cubby hole and read and watch movies. They want to watch Netflix. They want to read manga and anime, or whatever. They have like their soap opera type things that they love to watch, and they don't want anything to do with actual people. And it's lovely. They are sassy. Murderbot is, I love the fact that they call out a whole bunch of different people for doing stupid things. And there is also a very cool through line throughout this series that I've really enjoyed, and the side characters, the side AI that Murderbot meets along the way are just amazing, and I've had a lot of fun with this series. If I didn't say, I rated this one 4.5. I do think that the ending of this was a little rushed, and I would have liked to extend it just a little bit to make things seem a little more streamlined and maybe have some more details filled in, but that was really my only complaint. I will say something happened at the end of this book that did make me sad. I will not comment because I don't want to spoil anything, and these books are very, very short. But if you haven't tried the Murderbot Diaries and you like sci-fi, you like robots, AI, things like that, I beg you, please try this series out. It's amazing. On to my lows. So for those of you who do not like negative vibes and just want, just are here for the, gushing of book lovers, you might not want to watch this section because I have two doozies. I'm going to talk about one that's not so bad at the beginning, and then we're going to get into some rants. So if you are just here for the positive content, I wish you adieu, or I wish you good day, or whatever. I don't know. I hope you have a good evening and enjoy your time. And I totally understand if you don't want the negative vibes. The first book I feel like I had to put on this list is Elantris, which I rated 3.5. So this is not a bad rating by any means, but I had hyped this book up in my mind so much because it is Brandon Sanderson. It is his debut, and I have loved most of the books that I've read by Brandon Sanderson, and this just wasn't for me. Which is fine. I am not going to talk a ton about this because I have already discussed this on my most recent Chonky check-ins, which I will also link in the cards and the comments down below. But I will just say that I think this book could have been shorter. And I am saying that in loving Chonky reads. I think that there could have been a lot of edits to this storyline to make things more streamlined, and I think a lot of things could have been made clearer by not taking so many paths to certain endings. So that's all I'll say about that. If you haven't heard of Elantris, it is essentially a book about, you follow two main characters, and they live in a city next to Elantris. And Elantris used to be kind of the city of gods. A person would get chosen, and as they were chosen, they were turned into this person who lives forever that has these magical abilities. Well, something has gone wrong with the magic, and now if a person is chosen, they are essentially cursed. And I won't explain why or how, because I do think that that's part of the intrigue of the book, is to figure out what's happened and why it's seen as a curse now. But you also have this kind of war going on as well. These kingdoms, one trying to take control of the other, or one trying to build up power in the background as well. And yeah, I just thought it was okay. I really wanted to love it, but I am glad that I did not purchase this one for my physical collection. I do own it on Kindle, but that's okay. It can sit in my Kindle library and remind me of, the fact that sometimes authors are hit or miss. Brandon Sanderson is usually a hit for me, but that one in particular, it wasn't for me. The next two books were actually buddy reads for Leandra and I. And I'm not going to tell you what her thoughts were. I will let her do that. I will just be speaking for myself. But I did not like either of these books. So we will start with Cascade Failure. I was so excited about this book. It is a kind of sci-fi dystopian world that we're living in. And we have this individual that you start the book out with who is on the run. He is being hunted by the guild. And there are three, I guess, main factions within the world. You have the guild, the trust, and I can't remember what the third one was. But anyway, the trust and the guild are kind of the main components. The trust is this world is a futuristic society where corporations have been able to expand into space without regulation. And so you have the guild, who has become kind of the police of the trust. But there is a whole bunch of corruption going on. There are a lot of entities that have been bought out and things that are happening that are really detrimental to people in general, to the universe in general. And so you are following one of our main characters and you're in a lot of different POVs in this book, I shall say, but you are following this main character who is on the run from the guild. And at the very, very beginning of the story, he gets captured by the guild. And they are specific members of the guild, or at least one of them is a member of the guild who has known him in the past. And he goes on a mission with them, so they are going to turn him in, but along the way, certain things have happened. There is a ship in distress that is a guild ship. They go out to try and figure out what's going on. It's on a planet. That planet is dead. Weird things incur. So that's a general premise. And this book, I can't give you super spoilers because of the fact that, or I can't give you my reasons in really great detail because it would be spoilers for the book, but I will tell you that the decisions the characters make are so inconsistent and so dumb. And also the wrap up of this book, the person who becomes the villain, the person who makes a specific decision, does not fit whatsoever with the personality and information that you've been given as a reader, and it was very frustrating to read. There were so many things that we should have been told as readers that we were not, and there were a lot of really weird decisions made with relationships. I will tell you that if anyone reads this book, can you please tell me who is supposed to be in a relationship in this book and who is not? Because, man, the sexual tension that the author wrote into this book in weird times and things I'm not sure were supposed to be. I would love to know your thoughts if you do pick up this book. If I haven't said already, I rated this a 1.5 star. I did really enjoy the first probably 4 or 5 chapters, and I like the overall premise of the book. I feel like there could have been so much more done and so much more given to the reader to really make this story make sense. So that's what I'll say about that. The last book that I will talk to you guys about, and this is my worst book of the months from March through April, that is Dead Dead Girls. So I rated this 1 star, just one straight star. And I really probably should have given it below a 1 star, but I'm just gonna leave it at a 1 star rating. This book is a historical mystery, and you follow the main character whose name I'm not gonna remember at this point in time. And this main character is the victim of a kidnapping by a serial killer when she's 16. The very, very beginning of the book, it's like the prologue of the book, you see her get kidnapped, you see her escape. She becomes who is known as the hero of Harlem. And she actually rescued several other girls who had been kidnapped with her. So cool backstory. Well, at this point in time, I think it's 6 years in the future. Maybe it's 10 years in the future. Maybe she's 26. Anyway, she's in her mid-20s in the book. And girls start going missing again. And so she starts investigating. I should also say that she is a young black woman in Harlem in the 1920s. I think it's the 1920s. And she makes dumb decisions. There were a lot of things I did not like about this book. One of them was the formatting of the writing. The way that the chapters were segmented did not make sense. They were super short, abrupt endings, and it almost felt like I was watching a movie where I would get like glimpses of things and I would never get a full picture of anything or know why I'm getting the information I'm getting. It was very disjointed and it was very confusing. So that part I also did not enjoy. This was another one where the characters' actions were not consistent with what we were being told. So we are being told at the very beginning that she was kidnapped and that she was bound and determined never to be a victim again, and she was going to make for damn sure that this wasn't going to happen again. And she literally throughout the book, and I won't say like major spoilers, but throughout the book she goes for walks in the middle of the night and she will have conversations with her head. This probably isn't a good idea. I probably shouldn't do that. I probably shouldn't walk through that door. You are correct. You shouldn't. So maybe we don't. Maybe we make some different decisions. Maybe we tell people where we're going. Maybe we... I don't know. It was so frustrating to watch her make these really stupid mistakes when she is touted as this like really bright person. I did not enjoy that aspect of it. I also really didn't enjoy the component with the police. I won't tell you exactly how the police are involved as far as the storyline goes, but you do have a component where you have this investigation happening as well with the police. And the way that it's written, I guess this has kind of the same things that were happening in Cascade Failure. As far as the way that it's written, you would think that as a reader, you should know more than you get. So like chapters later, we've had this thing happen. I won't tell you what, but we've had this thing happen and we are shocked by it. But then earlier on, we had some characters that were maybe involved in this said event. And those characters, we were in their head, but we didn't get, as the reader, any information about what was happening. Nothing was hinted at. We have no understanding of the events that are going to occur, even though those characters knew. And that was very weird to me, that I felt like we were completely being left off the board. We were not being given information because of the wow factor, like they wanted to kind of have us trailing after and not knowing anything, which is fine, but then it needs to be written in such a way that I'm not in somebody's head, if that makes sense. So, not for me. I really liked the atmosphere, and I would like to read more books set in the 1920s, especially in Harlem. I think that that time frame is really interesting and one that I have not read a lot about, but this book just wasn't it. So those are my highs and lows for the month of March and April. Like I said, if I do have some in these last 3 days of April that I didn't get a chance to talk to you guys about, I will do a separate video to let you guys know if I have any that I love or any that I hate. Please tell me in the comments down below if you have read any of these, if you've loved them, if you've hated them. I would love to know the details of why. And then let me know in the months of March and April, what was your favorite read? What was your least favorite read? I love a good rant just as good as anybody, so let me know in the comments. I would love to chat with you guys. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have a lovely evening, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.